Are you thinking about moving or relocating to Columbus, Ohio, and trying to figure out what it's really like to live there? You might be moving to Columbus for a new job, or maybe just for a new opportunity. Well, having been born and raised in Central Ohio and a graduate of the Ohio State University, there is no one better to fill you in. I put together a list of the top 8 reasons why you should move to Columbus, Ohio. And you know what? I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I'm going to give it to you straight. And it all starts right now. So let's go! Hey, and welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Mark Van Stein, and I make videos on what it's like living in Columbus, Ohio. You can find videos on this channel like what are the best school districts, top neighborhoods, best areas, and the pros and cons of living here. My goal is to let the viewer get a really good understanding on what it's like to live here in the capital city. If you're interested in learning more about Columbus and its many suburbs, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. That way you don't miss any of my new videos, which come out about once a week. If you have any questions about Columbus or relocating here, you can drop them in the comments down below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you enjoy the video, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button down below. It just gives more people the opportunity to see my videos. Most importantly, if you're relocating and moving here, let me and my team help. I know moving is super stressful. Where should I live? Which neighborhood should I be looking at? Which schools are the best? All common questions. I'm a licensed RE/MAX realtor. I've been helping people relocate to Columbus for the last 18 years. So I've got a little experience knowing what people need and want. You really want an experienced agent helping you, someone who's going to look after your best interest, not a salesperson who's just going to sell you something. You can give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. We literally get people reaching out every week, and we absolutely love to help. So let's break this down. Number 1 is going to be the weather. The weather in Columbus is pretty horrible. Now, on the positive side, we usually get all 4 seasons every year, which is really nice. Fall and spring in Columbus can be particularly beautiful, but the winters are the worst. And the main reason is the lack of sun. Columbus happens to be one of the most cloudy cities in the United States. In the winter, you can go days without seeing that bright orange ball in the sky. Factor in the shorter days, and it can be a little bit depressing. We don't even get that much snow because we're in the middle of this huge valley. Instead, what we get is a lot of freezing rain and ice. The ice can be extremely stressful for people moving from the south or areas where they don't have to drive on slick roads. Summers can also be a little bit brutal. I mean, nothing compared to the humidity you have in the south, but we do get some of that humidity in July and August. If you're a foodie, fish lover, or just really into fine dining, going out, having great dining experiences, you may have some difficulty in Columbus. My wife and I really enjoy eating out, trying new restaurants, different cuisines, innovative food, and Columbus just lacks that higher end food scene. It's getting better. And when I say getting better, I mean more types of cuisines, better food experiences, but still really lacks that high-end dining. I lived in New York City for several years after college. The food scene there is amazing, just like it is in many other metropolitan cities. It was a little difficult coming back home to Columbus to a very meat and potatoes town. Interestingly, I say that because, hey, I'm a very meat and potatoes guy 6 days a week, but I really miss that food scene in New York City. The other problem Columbus has is that we are landlocked, so it's difficult here getting good, fresh fish. There are a couple of fish markets which I frequent, and they do a good job, but if you've ever lived on the coast where restaurants serve fish that was caught that day or the day before, you probably know what I mean. You'll just find that there are limited fish options on most restaurant menus here. Number 3 is Columbus is growing and construction is everywhere. It's only probably going to get worse. Columbus and some of its suburbs used to be these quiet rural communities, but no longer. You know what? We're lucky to have a very strong, stable economy in Columbus with a variety of different industries. But with all that stability comes growth and sprawl. Driving around Columbus, there seems to be new construction and cranes everywhere. Because Columbus is mostly surrounded by agricultural fields, growth outward is pretty easy. Yesterday a cornfield, today a housing community. Even where I grew up in Worthington, right next to Dublin, all that land was just cornfields 40 years ago. I can remember driving out into Dublin on a Saturday with my parents to visit a farmer's markets to get fresh donuts. It was pretty awesome. Today, where that market was is in the middle of a commercial corridor between Worthington and Dublin, one of the busiest roads on the northwest side. With all the new construction, the drive times into downtown Columbus get longer and longer, and the traffic becomes worse and worse. Now, the traffic isn't that bad yet. I mean, I hear people complaining, but it's nothing like Atlanta or LA or Dallas. But it's still frustrating because sometimes the freeway systems have a hard time dealing with it. This growth is going to continue into the immediate future as the area absorbs the new Intel chip plants and the growth associated with it. We're actually projecting 30,000 new housing units in the next few years. With all the sprawl and construction comes orange barrel season. You can probably guess what I mean. Our two seasons in Columbus are winter and orange barrel season. With all the freezing rain we get in the wintertime, there is lots of road damage. The ground is constantly going through this freezing and thawing cycle, creating potholes. Factor in all the road salt we drop on the streets to melt ice, and you can start to imagine the pounding the roads take. So, in the summertime, the orange barrels are out. The city does a pretty good job with their project management, but it can be a nightmare, especially if they are doing construction on a major throughway. Then, God forbid there's an accident, you could easily double your commute into work. Number 5 is the difficulty to fly anywhere direct out of Columbus. The Columbus airport is called Port Columbus. It's technically an international airport, but it's difficult to fly anywhere direct without having to connect through another city. The airport itself is quite lovely. It's clean, it's easy to get in and out of, there's good parking options, just not a lot of direct flights. It's not a major hub for any of the large airlines. So to get to a smaller city, you have to go through an Atlanta or Charlotte or Chicago. If you're going out to the West Coast, it's probably going to be a Phoenix or a Houston or a Dallas, all the big hubs. Connecting can add up to hours to your trip, even on a relatively short distance. And if you want to travel internationally to the Caribbean, it can be a whole day affair. My wife and I took a trip last summer to Wisconsin to play a little golf. If you haven't been to Wisconsin in the summertime, I highly recommend it. It is breathtaking. We went to a small city called Sheboygan, which is about an hour north of Milwaukee. Well, having to connect, then fly into Milwaukee was a whole day affair. We literally could have driven there quicker, which was totally my fault because I hate driving. And then on the way home, we got delayed. It was terrible. If you fly often, you probably understand the risk of having to connect through cities. It just increases the risk of delays. Number 6 is radon gas. Radon might be the most important thing you should know about if you're moving to Columbus, Ohio. Radon is very, very prevalent throughout all of Central Ohio. What is radon? Well, it might be worth doing a little bit more research, but radon is a carcinogen gas which is caused by the breakdown of shale and slate. Because Columbus sits in this big lake bed, we have a tremendous amount of shale and slate, therefore a very high radon count throughout the entire region. Radon becomes a problem when it seeps into enclosed spaces with no air movement or venting, like a basement, which a high percentage of homes in Central Ohio have basements. The EPA recommends that if the radon count is higher than 4.0, then you should have a mitigation system installed. And guess what? About 98% of houses that I deal with have high radon counts. So you need to be aware of also how to deal with it when it comes back high, especially if you are purchasing a home. Number 7 is that Columbus is flat. I mean very flat. The areas surrounding Columbus were mostly cleared for farmlands long ago, and that's typically what remains until that land is developed. This can be a little bit disappointing from people moving into the city for a couple of different reasons. First, All that new construction usually occurs on what was once agricultural fields. So you can imagine there are few, if any, mature trees and very flat terrain in all these new neighborhoods. I had a client a few years ago who used to call the new communities house farms. I told him that I was going to steal that phrase. The other drawback is that if you like to snow ski, mountain bike, hike, it's all a little bit hard to find in Central Ohio. There are a few decent ski resorts a couple hours away, but nothing that close by. The closest real mountains and hills are going to be down in West Virginia or in upstate New York, which isn't terribly far, but it's a little bit of a drive. Lastly, and maybe most impactful if you're going to buy a home, are the high property taxes. If you're moving or relocating from the East Coast or an area which has pretty high taxes, it won't be quite as impactful. But if you're moving from an area like Colorado or Texas, which have little or very low property taxes, you're going to be in for quite a shock. Property taxes will differ greatly based on what part of the city you live and the school district, but they can easily be hundreds, even thousands of dollars a month. It's important as you're looking for homes in Columbus that you understand the tax implications of every area. There are pockets of homes in good school districts which have slightly lower taxes. Make sure you familiarize yourself with those areas. Well, hopefully this video didn't completely freak you out. Trust me, despite some of its negatives, Columbus is an absolutely great place to live. It just has some drawbacks like every other city. If you're still thinking about moving or relocating here, make sure you give myself and my team a call. We excel in helping people relocate to the area. And like I mentioned, I've been doing it for the last 18 years. It is so very, very important that you have a professional helping you purchase in Columbus, especially if you're unfamiliar with the city or areas. You can call me, text me, email me. My contact information is at the end of the video and down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my new videos on what it's like to live in Columbus, Ohio. Until next time.